Hey everybody, this is Hadley, and I am here with Miss Morgana Calder and Miss Gracie. Y'all who are not familiar with Gracie, Gracie is the co-founder of Wyld Realities, and we are happy to have her here with us tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yes, it's always good to have her on.
I know.
Yeah. So, by the way, I love the intro.
Yes, it's awesome. Yeah.
All right. Well, I had to have something fantastic for these wonderful wild women.
It's very moody. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, this week this is our second attempt to record because we've had so many things going on, and Jen Salmons got called into work. She was a last minute thing, and Finley Jones is supposed to join us. She got called up exchanging cell phones. So I told her to hop on when she can, and here we are. So
cool. And, I told you I'm going to be useless on part of the conversation, but I will still have opinions.
Always. Always.
So, yes, I am behind. I have got like a whole library of things I need to watch, want to watch, and just haven't had time to watch. So that's okay.
Oh, it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
And when I sprained my knee, I've had plenty of time to catch up on everything.
Well, for myself, I have a child in the house, and there's certain things I can't watch until like after 9 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can only watch one episode because I'm old and tired. I have to go to bed.
I totally feel that, Gracie. I really do. It's like, what do you mean it's 9 o'clock?
Oh my gosh. We can't start a movie now.
That's right.
It's 9.
Yeah, getting old really does kind of suck.
Yeah, it does.
Which, compared to the alternative, I am not complaining.
There you go. There you go.
Silver lining always. And then of course we've got the young Miss Hadley, so she wouldn't know about all that.
Shoot. I'm falling apart. I feel like I turned 50 and my warranty ran out.
It kind of does that. I remember when I first ended up having to get, hey Mike, glasses. Everybody told me by the time you're 40, you will have to have glasses. Well, I didn't. I mean, I had perfect vision, and then I turned 45, and I'm like, okay, so I was just off a little bit, but it still caught up to me.
Yeah.
Well, Hadley
I read readers now for everything.
Yeah. Well, Hadley gave me some really good advice. What age did you say? It was like 45 when things start falling apart.
That was
never a true word was spoken.
At 45 was when I found out I had those kidney stones, and I had to have surgery. And then, like within 6 months, I had to have a full hysterectomy. So, like all my parts were like, we're done.
We're out of here.
Out. It doesn't get much better at 50 either, Gracie. I'll tell you that.
Oh, bless it.
Well, like I said, but you have to look at the alternative.
Yeah,
that's right. Well, tonight we're going to discuss the 20-year, anniversary of the Bowling for Columbine documentary. And that, we get together for these chats when we watch a documentary, and that was the documentary agreed upon for this month. And I have to tell y'all, I have never seen this. I've heard of the director, Michael Moore, but was not familiar with him. And I cannot express that this left me confused. I actually was concerned that I was being obtuse. So I went and did some research, and I wasn't alone. And I'll just say this, that I felt like this was a very disjointed opinion piece rather than a documentary.
Yes.
And I was, barking. Hold on.
He's agreeing with you.
They were unhappy they had to watch it too. I felt like it was a very slanted opinion piece. And I know that I know a lot of people really like this and have strong opinions about it, but I just felt like it failed to educate me on the topic I watched it for.
Exactly. I did take a few things away from it. and I wrote it down. I lost my notes, but when this came out, does anyone remember it was released in 2000? So
it came out shortly after 9/11.
Okay. Well, at that time, he said the statistics for gun violence, people that have died from gun violence in the country, was 11,000, some odd people. Mm-hmm. And that led me to look up the statistics from the CDC. And last year, for 2021, it was 55,000 people died from gun violence. So, right. I mean, it's still getting worse, and that's sad that 11,000 was shocking then, and now, we're almost to 55,000, and still everything stays the same. And Hadley and I talked about this too. I thought another interesting part was he did make some correlations to things like shark attacks. Like when one person gets killed by a shark, we lose our mind. But when one person dies from gun violence, nothing happens.
Yeah, I think that one thing that, and I don't mean to speak for anyone, but I think the one thing everyone can agree on is that the statistics climbing regarding gun violence in the last 20 years is incredibly upsetting.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And, which y'all know I'm a gun owner. I'm an advocate for the Second Amendment. I live in a state. I grew up around hunting. I took hunter's ed in school. When I was in high school, it was okay for people to bring guns on campus. Not like carry guns, but like if you were going hunting after school, it was fine to have your rifle in the car.
Yeah, and that's a little gun rack.
Yeah, I mean, and no one thought anything of it. Right. And that was 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. So, we're really heading down a very troubling path here.
Absolutely.
And that's what I was looking for in the documentary was, what can we do to change this? Mm-hmm. And obviously, and that was, again, he did have some good points. And I will say there were, I did pick up some stuff from the show, which was, like Canada has just as many guns as the United States does, but they don't have the gun violence problems.
Right.
And what are they doing different? And, but again, that doesn't have anything to do with Columbine. So.
Well, and I will tell you this, and my husband has commented more than once, and as more time goes along, I can't necessarily disagree with him about it, is anymore, it seems like the punishment does not fit the crime. It's like if you kill somebody, you're more apt to get a light sentence than if you get caught with drugs.
Hey, right. Finley.
Hey, Finley.
Hey, lady.
Welcome.
Hey.
And I really do think that that's sad that, you can get, as big of a sentence for weed as you can for killing somebody.
Well, let's hope that changes.
Right. Yes, I do sincerely hope that changes. But, and like I said, there are some cases that, that's not true. There are some people that have sat in jail for, decades and end up not being guilty. But, there are still a lot of people that, get by with what I consider cold-blooded murder.
But one more thing I did find interesting about it was at the beginning when he was talking about Columbine, I felt like he was on the right track at the beginning, and he was talking about everything they were blaming for the event, and we still do that.
Yes.
We still do that. Back then, they were blaming Marilyn Manson. They were blaming mental health problems, violent gun games, video games, and it was a circular blame game where everybody's pointing at everybody else. And we did that for Uvalde just a couple of months ago. I mean,
yeah, we're still blaming the same things.
We're still, this time we're blaming the doors. We were blaming, the
in the 80s, we were blaming, what were we blaming in the 80s? Devil music. What was that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Tipper Gore and the crusade against. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember when they had the Pearl High School shooting here in Mississippi.
Mhm.
And I mean, that was right next to where I grew up. It was the town over. And when you look at that, that was in the 90s. I mean, gun violence dates back to the 80s. It's not like Columbine was the first thing. It's
Well,
just
and
go
what
ahead.
was it? There was like the late 1800s, a massacre on at an Indian school.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I
I mean,
want
so
to say in the 80s there was like a sniper that set up before in California across from like an elementary school, but I
mhm.
can't remember the case.
Right,
I
right.
guess.
And I'm going to say too, you know, like I said, I own guns. I am perfectly okay with guns, but I do also feel like, okay, first, if you, I think that they should treat it just like anything else. I have to take a test in order to own a driver's license. You know, I don't feel that there's a problem with a person going through mental counseling to make sure that they're not teetering on the deep end.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that there are some guns that unless you have a certain background in training, you shouldn't own.
Agreed.
You know,
Absolutely.
so but like I said, I think, and Mike, you're right. They don't teach a lot of responsibility, personal responsibility in schools, but they also don't hold kids accountable at home.
Exactly.
You know, I would never have talked to my parents the way that some of these kids talk to theirs. I'd have found myself through a wall. And I've never been abused a day in my life, but I could just imagine one of my parents if I talked to them that way or treated them that way. You know, we were taught respect. And, you know, it's okay if you want to include, you know, your beliefs and faith and everything in that, but it went the same regardless. You know, we had children that never set foot in church a day in their life that were just as respectful as we were. It's what they were taught. You know, so you know, I think that people don't respect each other anymore.
No,
I don't think people know what it means.
That I can agree with that. Totally.
Well, Finley, I know that you sent me a message that said you were mad, you were upset. I'm interested to hear what your take on this was.
Well, you can't watch anything. It doesn't matter what it is. You cannot watch anything without it becoming a political hit piece one way or the other. If you want to do a documentary, then represent all sides.
Yes.
And I don't think that all sides were represented.
Well, and that's what I was saying before you jumped on, was that I felt like this was an opinion piece and not a documentary.
Right. And but the little digs, the little smart aleck comments that Michael Moore kept throwing in it, why? That's not necessary.
I mean, Lee Edwards is asking what we're talking about. Lee, tonight, the documentary that we're discussing is we all recently watched the Michael Moore documentary, Bowling for Columbine. It's been like 20 years since it's released, and I had never seen it.
I had neither.
And I did not feel like it was a documentary, and that's what I'm leading with, is that I felt like it was Michael Moore's opinion, and it was very scattered. I didn't feel like I was educated anything about Bowling for Columbine when I was done.
Mm-hmm.
So here's another thing that just really kind of got under my skin was those poor victims, the boys that they took or that he took to Kmart.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I felt like he was exploiting their victimhood. That's a terrible word to use. You get what I'm saying though.
Right, absolutely.
Why would you do that?
Shock value.
Right.
That's what I felt. I felt it was for shock.
And that is that political.
And I get he was trying to make a point.
Right.
But not at the expense of those children and what they've been through.
Right.
Exactly.
Tony, my mother had a privet hedge outside, and those little switches off of those privet hedges across your legs were hell. So, So yes, mom could use a lot of things to keep you in line.
Well,
So,
and going back to I think, like I said, we can all agree that gun violence is a problem. But instead of pointing the finger, we need to be looking for a solution. And
yes.
the solution isn't taking guns away from people. And I don't know what the solution is, but I'm willing to talk about it.
So I don't have a problem with doing the longer background check period. That whatever, that's fine. You're not going to get anybody with a mental health issue to say, yes, I have a mental health issue on an application.
That's right.
Exactly.
Right. That's why I feel like it should be an actual evaluation, that, and not necessarily just one, I mean, and the thing is, okay, and I'm going to go out on this too, is, I feel that the majority of our military, they have, they have served their time and everything, and I would not want to take their guns away. But so many of them have PTSD, and a vet is more apt to kill themselves. But I feel like if they had someone that they could talk to, a professional that they could talk to, then it might make it even take those stats down, because a lot of times it's just that intervention, or that just having someone to vent to can curtail some of that stuff. I mean, not all of it. I mean, by no means all of it. But like I said, I feel like that being able to vent about what's made you angry and why you're angry and everything else might lead a little bit more to, okay, I can handle this then. Well, you know what? I'm going to shoot, a classroom full of kids or some people in Walmart, I mean, and you're never going to get all the guns off the streets. But again, look at Canada's stats compared to ours.
Well, another thing that people tend to not look at is, if someone has been charged with domestic abuse or stalking, they don't need a gun.
No.
And I'm not saying,
No.
I know that there's always a percentage of people who are wrongly accused, but the statistics prove that the majority of women who lose their lives, or really anyone, male or female, who lose their lives due to domestic violence is due to a gun. And that is scary when we have these people. And again, not a statistic I like, and not something I feel comfortable saying, but when you have a lot of law enforcement who are, batterers, that's a problem too. So there's bigger issues out there, and we need to look at the bigger issues and connect the dots.
Yes.
And see, if there are certain demographics that need to be vetted. Or, I mean, it could be anything. I mean, do you remember, and I know Finley and I went to high school together, so she might, but when we were in high school, we had to take hunter education, which is where we learned about guns and gun safety. And I mean, we obviously grew up in a state where hunting is, is part of life here.
Right.
And maybe something like that should be reintroduced at a younger age. I'm just not really sure.
Yeah. And there is no easy answer. There's not ever going to be an easy answer. But sometimes it just feels like they're like, okay, well, there's not an easy answer, so screw it. We're just going to leave things alone. It'll work itself out.
Well, so here's my proposal. If you go in and you fill out an application for a weapon, for a gun, I think that if your application is approved, you should have to go through a gun safety course before you actually get to take your gun home.
Thank you.
Yep.
I mean,
well, Michelle, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are very complex. And the first thing I would like to say is we don't need assault rifles. And my husband's a veteran. He's like, they were developed for the military. You as a civilian, you don't need those. They were designed to kill. They're not designed for deer hunting or sportsmanship. They're designed to kill a lot of people. And a normal person does not need access to those. That's just my opinion. It's not, the most popular opinion. I don't know.
No, I'm not in disagreement.
And, another thing too is, along with the assault weapons, we're not doing any kind of regulation for the high capacity magazines. I don't see any situation where you need to have that many rounds available to you.
Well, do y'all remember was it the 90s when Ice-T had that cop killer song?
Mm-hmm.
And it was all about hollow point bullets.
Right.
Well, you don't hear anything about hollow point bullets killing people anymore. I mean, that's what happened. What solved the hollow point bullet problem? Can someone share?
I'm really not sure. Maybe there was a manufacturing change. I don't know. Maybe the manufacturers said, "Hey,
yeah, we've gotten a bad reputation now." Yeah.
I don't know, but someone needs to take responsibility at some point for the gun problem, and no one's willing to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm all for responsible gun ownership. Absolutely. But like Finley was saying, if you drive a car, you're tested.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why not do this a similar situation with a gun? And maybe that's the difference between us and Canada. Maybe they actually do have classes and resources for people to learn how to use a gun. And and I want to say this too, and like I said, maybe not popular, but I'm not for the whole open carry and all that stuff either. I think the theory behind it has failed, and that needs to be reassessed too.
Well, I told someone I worked with when they first did open carry, and I'm like, okay, here's my problem with it. Like I said, just again, an opinion.
Right.
But okay, I'm angry at you at work.
Mm-hmm.
So if I've got that gun on me, I can react immediately.
Right.
Otherwise, I have to get up, grab my bag, walk out to my car, unlock it, get the gun, and come back in. I've got time to think and calm down.
Exactly.
So I agree. And I don't know what that person that's open carrying has on their mind. I mean, who's even to say that they're legally able to carry? My daughter worked for Highway Patrol for several years. And if a police officer pulls you over and there is a gun in your car, he cannot run a check to see if you can legally have that gun unless you do something to make it, to make him question it.
Right.
So, it could be someone that's got a felony. It could be someone that, is intent on going and killing somebody. You never know.
Right.
I know what I'm capable of. I don't know what he's capable of or she's capable of.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, you just never know.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And, the whole open carry thing. A lot of people say, well, if you have enough good guys that are, have guns with them, if someone comes in and tries to do a mass shooting event or any kind of crime, you've got people that are armed. But recently in what was it in Boulder, where the person came into the grocery store and I forgot how many people he killed, but that was an open carry. And there were people in there with guns and it didn't do anything. It didn't stop anything.
I remember when I lived in Byram, the Dollar General got robbed.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, y'all. This is so funny. It's not funny, but it is funny. I'm sorry, I got a dark sense of humor. So the guy that's robbing the Dollar General has a gun. Mm-hmm. Well, what he doesn't know is that there is a shopper who is carrying, and the shopper shot him. He was threatening to kill people. He was robbing the store, and the citizen took him out. And
Awesome.
then I mean, didn't shoot him dead, just basically disarmed him. And on the news that night, the criminal's mother was interviewed by the local news.
Oh my
And
God, I
she
remember that.
said that she thought that the citizen who was legally carrying their firearm should be prosecuted and put in jail.
Wow.
I remember that. I remember it.
Oh my God. And okay, so like I said, here's where I go with that is if you're committing a crime and somebody retaliates, then you got exactly what you asked for. I mean,
but going back to the bow, I mean, and this is not necessarily Bowling for Columbine, but the topic, when the Pearl shooting happened, one of the teachers got their weapon from their car. And that was how the situation was diffused until the local law enforcement got there. And people don't think about that, But now when we look at school shootings, should our teachers have to carry weapons into class? No.
Yeah, the same teachers that are already your babysitter, your child's nurse, their counselor, they should also. And here's my thing about teachers carrying. And the situation with Pearl, I remember that. I remember how it went down and everything, and that is amazing. But that is so seldom what happens.
Yep.
But I don't feel like we should be putting more on people. We're already underpaying, and two, they don't have real life experience on dealing with a high risk or high stress situation like that. You don't know how you're going to react. I mean, that guy that shot 500 people at a concert in Texas, you're going to tell me nobody in that concert had guns? It's Texas. I mean, So, I mean, like I said, it sounds like a great idea that, the good guy with the gun is going to take care of it. But how often have you ever heard of it happening?
Well, I've thought, maybe they should take, and this y'all know me, that maybe they should take some of these retired military working dogs and put, obviously not the ones that are biters, but put them in the schools because a lot of these dogs, they still have good years left, and they're used to smelling out firearms.
Yep.
And some of these veterans
that's what I was going to say. I'm not opposed to veterans that, they come home and, they need work. They need something. Why not give them that opportunity, provided they pass a mental health test? Because, because like I said, I feel like, a lot of them do come home with PTSD, so I feel like that needs to be addressed. But for the most part, they are trained and they know what to do in a high risk situation.
Exactly. And they know, I mean, that's what they were trained to do. I mean, I don't know. I think that's a great idea. I wish more people were on board with that.
Yeah. I'm much more on board with that than the teachers having to carry.
Me too. I don't think that as someone who's done substitute teaching, I definitely don't want that responsibility. But I think that that maybe that's something people should consider. Maybe it should be like an arm of the state or local government.
Yes.
Why
not? I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, all in all, I wanted to like this documentary a lot more than I did. I wanted to, because that was like a snapshot of my life, just to, kind of to add to this. We actually lived in Denver during this time, and I was out running errands that day, and I got caught up in all that crazy over there, and I was sitting in traffic for a couple hours trying to get out of it. And you had the continuous loop on the radio, what was going on, and that back then you just didn't hear about things like that. It was just, I wanted to know more. I wanted to know more about that specific event.
There is a documentary on Columbine, by the way.
Good.
I did. I was searching for it and curious. But yeah, there is one that probably, if you're interested, you should watch. I know that I'll be watching it because, like I said, I'm curious.
Absolutely.
But no, I don't think that I don't think this is an easy answer. I don't think there's a easy, I think people have a lot of feelings about it, but I'm not trying to take anybody's guns away for sure.
No, not at all. I just think, I think we all agree there just needs to be some rules.
Well, it's just like, a locked door doesn't keep a criminal out of your house.
Mm-mm.
And that's the problem with guns is it's not the law-abiding citizens you have to worry about. It's the people who aren't.
Right.
And that's where the people are falling through the cracks.
Mm-hmm.
But
absolutely.
And Mike Lewis is saying they could use retired police officers and firefighters as well.
Agreed.
Definitely.
Agreed.
So, but don't get me started. I know y'all know how I am with the veterans is that we have so many veterans who can't get jobs or they're homeless that, that's a whole nother thing that maybe we should, try to incorporate something again with that.
All right, I had a moment. I thought you kept cutting me off, and I was like, "What? Does she not want me to talk?" And I realized I had muted myself.
I hate it when that happens.
I know, right? But no. And now, of course, I can't remember what I was going to say. So I'll come back to it. But yeah, like I said, I think I agree. There is no easy answer. But like I said, my biggest problem is the fact that it just does not seem like they care enough to find the answer.
Exactly.
There are always going to be criminals. That is without a question. Yes, a person can kill someone with a knife, but they cannot kill people at the capacity. Guns do make it easier.
And,
it makes it impersonal too.
Yes.
And think about it. And I think everybody can agree on this too. There was a time where our country respected a civilized debate about subjects that are important to our society, like guns or what have you. But that civilized discourse is gone.
Yes.
And we can't agree on anything. It's always something to score a political point, and people's lives are, hanging in the balance while they argue.
Well, and people want a soundbite.
Exactly. Yes. I watched another documentary, and it was the polarization of political ideology in our country. And back like in the 70s, 80s, you would see like the blue and red little scatter chart. They are kind of commingled in the middle where, people might vote different sides. It wasn't, as polarized as it is now. And then they showed the scatter chart from today, and it was just clear red, blue. And no one's coming together in the middle.
Yep.
If we could come together in the middle and have some, respectful dialogue about it, I think we could get pretty far.
It is all about politics and money.
Correct.
That's it.
Correct.
Yes. Well, and like I said, I mean, I've even said that in a normal society, in a normal political air, I'm about as middle of the road as you can get. I mean, I'm not radical to one side or the other. There are certain things that I feel more passionately about, but up until a few years ago, I didn't vote party at all. I have voted for every flipping party out there. It just depends on what they stood for and how closely it aligned with what I believed in.
Right.
Exactly.
I was taught you vote, period. End of story. That is your right. Your foremothers died for that right. So you get out there and do it. So, I did the research and got out there and I did my part. But now anymore, it's like, oh my God, all of them are idiots. But who am I more comfortable with? Which idiot am I more happy with, living with?
Right.
Well, Mike Lewis is saying that he grew up in the 70s and was taught to vote for the person that he thought would do the best job regardless of the party. And that's how it should be.
Yes,
Exactly.
absolutely.
One of the things that, and this is kind of dipping our toe into politics, which I try not to do.
Well, we can dip right out when you get done.
But I'm of the school of thought that what worked in 1776 is not necessarily what's working in 2022.
Right.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of reform that needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And doing away with the parties, I think, is the number one thing we need to do.
And taking the money out. If you have if you're getting money, you should be like NASCAR and have to wear down something on your clothes that says, I'm getting money from these people.
And term limits.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Well, and if you don't believe in term limits, I am going to say this. Think about how you felt about something 10 years ago and how you feel about it today.
Mm-hmm.
Things change. People get married and get divorced. So can your politics.
Right.
Well, and 200 years ago, they weren't in it to make money. They were in it because they worked for us.
Right. It was a civil duty that you did for your government. It wasn't a career.
That's right. There you go. That's what I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
There was no such thing as a career politician.
Correct.
Yes. And we need to go back to that.
And you have these politicians, and I'm not going to name any names because that's not what we're here for, but, some of them go into Congress and, they're worth like $40,000 in assets, and then they get done and they've got like, $3.6 million in the bank. Well,
Yeah.
How in the world did that happen? Let me think.
I'm telling you, patches would do it. I would donate them.
I love that idea.
I'm kind of envisioning the Congress with like those little NASCAR suits on now.
Right. It would do the job, because like I said, they do work for us. Well, no, they don't work for us, but they're supposed to work for us.
No, they don't work for us anymore.
No, not at all.
Well, now that we're kind of dipping our toe in politics, but we're not really.
We're skimming the tide.
I think that we all can agree that this documentary was not what we wanted it to be for us.
No.
So,
and like I said, I've always kind of felt that way about him. Like I said, he's done some stuff that I was like, oh, okay, that was all right. But then by the same token, he's done this one that I'm like, not so much, because like you said, it was very much more of an opinion piece.
Well, but I will say this, that, one of the people that I talked with about having watched this really felt very passionate that, and let me preface by saying I don't agree but they believe that Michael Moore was a card-carrying member of the NRA and that he was for Second Amendment rights. Mm-hmm. And they feel like he was just trying to find an answer to why did it happen? Mm-hmm. That was not what I took away from it.
At all.
But it just goes to show you that different people do take different things.
Correct.
Alan Lassiter is asking, what's the topic? Alan, we watched Bowling for Columbine 20 years after the fact to revisit it and to see like what the issues were and kind of discuss that, which is where we're at now.
Yeah.
So I just have to say, I did cry during this when they were interviewing I think it was two girls, and she could barely talk because she was crying so hard, talking about what happened. But she was talking so fast. But then the other one that just crushed my soul was Dylan Klebold's daddy calling 911, saying he was pretty sure it was his son that was in the school shooting up the school.
Oh my God.
It crushed me because I cannot imagine the kind of what's the word? Guilt, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
He had to have
despair.
Had in that moment. Yes. Just
as a parent, how do you face that? And 90% of the cases, it's kind of that way. The parent didn't have a clue. And there are definitely exceptions to that. I mean, some of them it's probably as much the parents' fault as anybody's. They had this one here not too long ago that his parents bought him the gun.
Right, I remember that, and they charged the parents.
Yes, and I feel like they should have charged the parents because I mean, he was talking about buying ammo or something, and his mom's like, "Well, just don't get caught."
The parents were warned. They were very complicit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, growing up, one of my neighbors, bless his heart, he would, I mean, from the age of like 3rd grade until he was probably 15 or 16, he was in the woods by the house dressed in camo, pretending he was killing us all. And this is not, and I mean, this is so funny, y'all. I'm not gonna identify the family, but the father was very, very high up in Mississippi politics. And he told me and this was at a funeral one time. He said, because the kid goes on to become a very successful surgeon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, very successful in the area. And his dad told me, he goes, for a while there, I thought he was going to be a serial killer. And that's a horrible feeling for parents, but some of these kids are weird.
Yeah.
And that was something I did take, was when they were talking, was it Trey Parker from South Park?
Oh yeah.
When he said, we were those kids, but we got out of high school. Why did they feel like they had to do this before they graduated? They're graduating in a few weeks.
Right. And this is by no means the same thing, but it's the same mindset as it's like, someone that age that kills themselves. That's a temporary solution that's going to leave all this devastation in your wake for something that's probably going to get better relatively soon once you're away from that crowd of people.
Well, yeah, and it's a mental health issue, and that's what we go back to with this. And I don't want to, put it on a shelf with a label and say it's mental health, but it is.
Mm-hmm.
There's something wrong with these kids.
Yeah.
Well, and kids can't see past the now. They just can't. And it is the biggest issue in their lives at that moment. And they can't see past the moment. And I think that's why parents have to be involved, and not helicopter parents, but they have to be involved. And the occasional spot checks on the phones and the computers.
Mm-hmm.
You have to.
Mm-hmm.
Well, another a friend of mine, their son, which he had a chemical imbalance, but they got a call. He was in school, and they had found where he had a list of names.
Mm-hmm.
And they took him out of school. They put him in mental health, but it turned out he had a chemical imbalance. Mm-hmm. So it makes you wonder, all these chemicals we're putting in our bodies, is that part of the problem?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it could definitely, have some impact and different people process different chemicals,
mm-hmm.
All over the place. And something that has no effect on me, like you can't take pain medication.
Yeah, I can't.
I can take it and work and never miss a beat, and then there's that person in between us that, takes it and has to lay down and take a nap. So like I said, in children and teenagers, their bodies are changing so much. Mm-hmm. They're already chemically unbalanced. But then you add, outside influences, then that just makes it that much worse.
Right.
And like I said, 99% of kids turn out okay. But you still have to be able to keep your eyes on it. I work with a guy and a girl I was working with. She was talking about her son had borrowed her iPad and never logged out of it. So every time he'd get text messages on his phone, they'd show up on her iPad. And she goes, I don't go into it every day and look at it, but occasionally, yes, I go in and see what he's texting with his friends about. He's 17 years old. Well, the guy that she was talking to was like mid-20s, and he was just horrified. You spy on your child, and I just happened to walk in, And they stopped me and they're like, what do you think? And I'm like, well, what do I think about what? And they explained it. I said, you're his mother. He does not need you to be his friend. He's got friends.
Right.
That is your job. You know, I mean, as a parent, you can be their friends when they're grown. You know, they need parents. And I think that's a part of the problem today, too, is so many children, their parents want to be their best friend. And I get it. You want them to like you. You know, you want to get along with them, but they need parents.
Agreed.
So, yes, Mike, there are definitely, I mean, look, I can remember my mom when I was a kid cooking dinner for like Thanksgiving. 12, 14 pound turkey. That was a big turkey. Now that is a small turkey. You know, so yeah, it's definitely in our foods. The hormones, the chemicals.
Chickens are huge now. Like if you buy chicken in the store, oh my gosh. I'm like, where did this freaky chicken come from?
Right. Do I really want to eat this?
Well, there was this place by work that had fried chicken, and Christy and I went there one day just to grab something while we were on our lunch break, and the chicken breast that I got, y'all, it was the size of my plate, and I was like, oh my god, can you imagine this chicken? How did it walk?
Yeah,
because I mean, it's just, and you look at kids now, that the way they're developing, and that has a lot to do with the hormones in food.
Yes.
You know, which, close your ears, guys, but I didn't get boobs until college. And I saw some 13-year-old girls that they looked like they were 25. You know?
Oh, it's crazy.
Fully developed. And it wasn't one or two. It was like, this was at one of the places I worked, they had a weekend retreat, and yeah, these girls were just fully developed. And I was like, oh my God, I just didn't even know what to think.
So,
and I'm going to tell you too, though, it's not just the girls, because I can remember sitting when Dayla was she was probably a senior, and we were sitting in Walmart, and I was filling something out, and I just looked up, and this guy walked across, and I'm like, oh my God. She goes, Mom, I go to school with him. I'm like, oh my God, you know. So I felt horrible, you know, but I mean, you would not have known it looking at him. So yeah, it's affecting everybody.
Mike, you can't buy chicken breast with the skin and bone on it in the supermarket anymore because you don't have workers in the factories that process the meat like they used to do it. Not since COVID.
Yep.
Yeah.
True. And, you know, and it's not just one industry. I'm trying to figure out how these people are eating, you know, I mean, because there are no more COVID benefits, not in my area. So I don't understand. But where I work at, we are struggling to find people that actually want to work.
Yep.
Which is totally off subject.
Well, it actually kind of, one of the other things that I had on schedule was for us to talk about the economy, because guys, it's looking bleak.
Yeah,
it is. I mean, I understand what's happening, but I just don't know if it's going to work.
Well, after COVID, I'm sorry, Michelle. Excuse me, Grace, go ahead.
As much as it hurts, I understand why our interest rates are going up, trying to cool the economy down to make up for the supply chain shortages from COVID and whatnot. But I just don't think it's having the effect that they wanted it to. I just don't have a good feeling about this.
What scares me is that our kids and our grandkids and their kids are going to have to pay this huge debt off that we're currently in. It's getting higher and higher, and it's scary to me for future generations.
It is. And once again, you know, the way our politics are today, no one's going to come to an agreement to fix it.
Right.
Yep.
You know, until people start coming to the table and acting like the adults in the room it's not going to get better. We have no adults.
Mm-mm. No, we have kids and senile old people.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think it was Mike that earlier said something about, it was both sides, and he's right. There's no good party anymore. There's no party of family values. There's nothing. Everybody just wants to do what's going to piss the other side off. And the best way to keep us from stepping up and doing something about it is to keep us at each other's throats.
Exactly. It's, they've designed everything for us to always be in a fight or flight mode.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's how we are reacting as a society. And yes. I mean, I don't know about you ladies, but it's wearing me out. I'm so tired.
We're a nation. Well, it's a world of people who are going through PTSD. I mean,
right.
I hate to say it, but I mean, that's what it is.
And what's so bad? It's like you've got two sides of the coin. Like you're trying to do your job, and you're getting emails like, "Oh, can you do this, little menial task?" And then you get a news alert on your phone. Putin threatens with nuclear weapons.
Yeah. I've got my iodine tablet.
I don't know how to feel.
Sitting there.
Yes.
It's like you're trying to live your life, and then it's just so scary.
Well, I was talking with one of my friends earlier, and we were, they were expressing their concerns, and they don't live here, which y'all know I live in the South, and I just realized, I'm really thankful to live where I live right now.
Right.
I mean, people don't even know the name of my state. It's just the landmass between Louisiana.
Right. That's the one.
But and the thing is, it is a very poor rural state. The economy collapsing will affect us, but it's not going to affect us like it does people in New York or people in California or people, even in Georgia. It's not
because
gonna
we're
affect us
used
like
to
that.
being without.
We're used to making no money. We're used to,
whoever knew that would be, a reason to stay, but you're not wrong.
And that's the thing. And I was thinking, was it 2007? When was the last recession that we had?
2007, 8.
Yeah, that was during that time period. Mississippi's unemployment rate didn't change.
Mm-hmm.
It changed throughout the nation. People really were affected by it, but it really didn't make a difference here.
And the flip side to that is also the people here generally in the South will step up and help each other.
Yeah.
There's not every man for himself or herself. It's what do you need? I'll be there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, and just because y'all know I've worked in nonprofit forever, but for donations, poorer states give more than any other to each. I mean, and when it comes to donations and helping one another, it's amazing. But that's not something you're going to see in some other states that are full of a populace that, they're not as kind or as community oriented.
Right. It's a dog eat dog world. But, and I will say this too, because I mean, we jokingly say, oh yeah, we're the landmass. But the thing about it is, after Katrina, we kind of got left behind because, everybody was worried about New Orleans. Not to say that New Orleans didn't need help, but the people in Mississippi stepped up and helped each other.
Well, and I'll say this, and again, y'all, anybody that has talked to me knows I really am very gray when it comes to politics. I don't get involved for the most part. Like I said, I just think it's all just need to start over. But Haley Barbour was the governor during Katrina, and I would back him if he wanted to run for president. That man is the only person who I trust to fix things, because he fixed the state of Mississippi after Katrina. And when I tell you, and Morgana and Finley and Gracie can all testify, Mississippi looked like it was hit by a nuclear bomb. It was gone. Waveland, Mississippi was just
one building
gone.
left standing.
Yeah.
One.
And he built all that back without the help, without the assistance. And I think the world of him. I mean, he really brought the state together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Though he has said he would never run for any other office, by the way. But I really admire him. He's a great.
There are a few others I'd much rather not run for anything else. But, you know, and the thing is, I grew up in the same city that Haley's from. His niece and I went to school together and we're good friends. And while I know a lot more about him, I think on a personal level than some people do, I still think he did a damn good job.
He did.
You know, and like I said, I have no complaints on him about that at all. So,
well, I heard him speak at the time when Mason came back from Iraq.
mm-hmm.
They had a big thing, like a homecoming at the Coliseum in Jackson. And I got to listen to him, and he really talked about how they rebuilt the coast and all that, and was really uplifting for the guys that had been overseas and all that. But
Mm-hmm.
and I will tell you this, because we were talking about totem animals and guides and signs. The only time I have ever seen a bald eagle was flying over the Coliseum that day.
Cool.
It was very cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, definitely in a different class than a lot of what you see now.
Yeah.
You know,
Definitely.
like I said, because it's one of those things I never questioned whether or not he cared about the state of Mississippi.
No.
You know, because there was no question that he did. You know, I think he was one of those people that went into politics for the right reasons.
And some people do. Some people do. I think they're getting fewer and fewer out there now.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't do it.
Oh, hell no. One, they would probably get rid of me quickly. But,
well, I will say more women need to get into politics, because there's not enough.
Yes, and that can lead us to our next topic.
Our next leg on our topic, which would be Handmaid's Tale.
Yes, the Handmaid's Tale, or as some politicians are thinking it is, a documentary.
Uh-huh.
It is not a documentary. But yeah, this season, I have words for this season.
Well, let's hear them.
Okay, my first word is, how in the world did Serena manage to go back to Gilead to bury Fred Waterford when she was a political prisoner in Canada? Last I heard, you're not supposed to, do those kind of things, where you can just waltz into the country that you're accused of war crimes in and get everything that you want.
Yeah.
So,
I had wondered about that, but I just kind of thought, oh, Fred's dead. Oops.
Well, our bad.
We need to do something here.
Our bad.
To pacify this crazy woman.
Yeah. And that's one of them. And second is poor Janine. Please stop doing things to that poor woman.
Oh God! And see, I'm going to start with, I haven't watched the season yet, and that's fine. I mean, I'm not one of those people that spoilers bother me. But can one person actually be through any more stuff than that girl has gone through?
She's gone through more.
Oh my God!
We're what 3-4 episodes in now, and Janine's already like in a wheelchair.
Oh my
God!
Wow.
Finley, do you watch Handmaids?
I have not seen this season, no.
Well, y'all are in for a wild ride, because
I will catch up.
I made the statement the other day that if they did what it looked like they were doing on the last episode, I was going to stop watching.
Yeah, you told me you were going to stop. You might have to stop. So.
I can't take the emotional turmoil.
Well, just spoiler alert, June is in enemy territory again, and she gets captured.
Again.
Oh, Lord.
Again.
Okay, she needs to stop.
She needs to stop.
Thank you. I was like, you got a baby, girl. you and that baby, you need to take care of that baby.
Yes.
And Luke, and her husband Luke was with her. He was also captured. He gonna die.
Well, let me say this. Let me say this about Luke.
Because
after
they started getting along again, and she starts falling in love with him again, and you see this softer side of him. He gonna die.
Well, he had to pull out his gangster card because Junior went off the reservation.
I'd like to say I'm surprised, but I have seen it just seems like her mental state has been just progressively deteriorating.
You have no idea.
Yes.
There's one, I think, is it the first or second episode, that the whole episode, my true crime watching self was just like, I can't have none of this. She was, and I'm gonna, it's a spoiler, guys, I'm sorry. She was covered in blood and leaving fingerprints all over town.
Oh my God.
And I was like, no, they're gonna know it was you.
She goes to like a Canadian IHOP kind of place and has like a full breakfast.
Covered in blood.
Oh my God.
Her orange juice glass got little bloody fingerprints.
Wow.
And she's with a group of people and no one says a word.
Okay. Do you think it's out of fear or that they were just that stupid?
I'm going for B.
Yeah.
Like, they're really just...
I was like, someone be a friend. Wipe those prints off that glass.
They leave them all over the place. And, I will say this, and Hadley, you're caught up. What do you think of Serena being in this house with these people?
Well, they're very
creepy.
I think that all the people that are surrounding Serena Joy now seem very Stepford Wife-ish.
Yes.
The men are all kind of creepy and weird, and it's just like they all know a secret and she doesn't know it. It's like she doesn't know that she's captured.
Yes. So is it going to be like, what was it in the Walking Dead where they met up with the cannibals? Everybody was, oh, this is the greatest place. And come to find out they were cooking people?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Just what had happened is Serena, of course, goes back to bury Fred, and she wants to stay. But
really?
She wants to stay. And she tries to talk Commander Lawrence into marrying her.
Well, I was going to say, you're forgetting the important part is she thought she was going to be able to stay and be another high commander's wife.
Correct.
And she could blackmail him into marrying her.
And all the commanders like, oh, no, you can't stay here. You got to go back to Canada. Like, they literally threw her out.
Oh, wow.
They're like, no, you can't stay here. And so they send her back to Canada, like, hey, you can be this ambassador, a goodwill ambassador. Well, that didn't go well either. So she got sent to a house.
Thanks to June.
Thanks to June and her, pistol packing ways.
Mm-hmm.
And she gets sent to this house in Canada with sympathizers to Gilead. And she's pretty much trapped there now. And back up a minute, but the guy that was helping her, what's his name, Hadley? Is it Mark?
The guy the Canadian guy.
The Canadian guy. He's like, he gave her one more out. He's like, if you change your mind, we still can do this. You can, testify. You'd be under our protection. You would have your own house. No. Serena still went all in with Gilead and wants to continue to preach that message, and now she's trapped. I think they're going to take her baby.
They're going to do something.
They're going to take her baby.
Well, I am a firm believer in stupid should hurt because you remember and you learn when it hurts. And she's beyond that.
She is a true blue narcissist.
Yes.
In that she thinks she can get away with anything. She thinks she's smarter than everybody. And yeah, she's it's gonna be good, guys. It's gonna be good.
And I guess I don't know if anyone's heard, they've officially announced that next season will be the last season. And
Okay, but they were talking about this being the last season.
so they got one more, then it will turn over to the Testaments, which would be the sequel.
Okay, have y'all read that?
I have not. I know the plot, but I've not read it.
I have to say, because I remember reading the original Handmaid's Tale back when it released. It had already been banned, but I had a friend who happened to get a copy of it before Virginia banned it, and so I've been waiting for this book for 40 years, I guess.
Right.
I was very pleasantly surprised. I did not know whether or not I would like it. It's told in a first-person narrative by 3 different people. And then when they bring it all together at the end, I think it's worth the read. Yeah, I do.
Just a basic overview of the Testaments, it's going to really focus on Aunt Lydia because she has this redemption arc where she starts fighting for the rebellion.
Well, do you think
they're starting to plant seeds now?
Well, I was going to say, they've kind of. I was wondering if they were going to do that because, like, one minute it looked like they would, the next minute it was like, what?
And I'll be when they're doing the narratives in the book, they don't tell you who's talking. Right. You figure it out if you've watched The Handmaid's Tale. But as far as this, if you had not done anything but read the first book, then read the second book, the ending would totally throw you when you realize who all's doing the narration. And I think that's what I really liked about it, because like I said, you could read it as a standalone, but having read the first one, you would have the backstory.
And I thought it was very telling too, because you could see the wheels turn in Aunt Lydia's head because she wanted to reform the Handmaids program and have all the commanders and the wives come to the Red Center instead of assigning a handmaid to each home. And the commander's like, no, we want the handmaids there for extracurricular activities. So it clicked in her like, oh, yeah, this is not what I thought it was.
And as much as I'd like to choke her or throw her down some stairs, either works.
Either way.
Yeah, I do honestly think in her mind that she loves those girls and thinks that she's doing what's best for them. I totally disagree, but I think it's like, she honestly thinks that she is doing something that's important and that matters.
Right.
But she's never looked at it from their point of view or their side. That's the downside of extremist religion is you tend to get caught up in that.
Well, and, that whole Madonna horror complex. I mean, the wives are supposed to be the Madonna and, the handmaids, that's what they represent.
Right.
And I think that clicked for Lydia. I think it clicked for her. She's like, oh, they're not as pious and pure as they want you to believe.
Right. Right. Well, and I can remember the first time they showed the ritual, the monthly ritual,
right,
with Serena Joy and Fred and her, just the look on Serena Joy's face. It didn't matter that they were doing this because they wanted a child or whatever. It was the fact that she was sitting there while her husband was screwing somebody else.
Right.
So like I said, I think that there are parts of it she's all in 100% believes in. And then I think that there are parts that she really is hiding a lot.
Well, that was something they alluded to in this latest episode. Was it, and this is again a spoiler, but she was given this like a stack of handmaids to look through, and the one on top was like, well, this is the one the commander liked, and Serena Joy moved it to the other side.
This one over here.
We're not calling her. So you see that already there's an issue there.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But,
right. And like I said, I mean, okay, so the population of children in the world is gone, and would you give up your child, as one of the commander's wives? How would you, I mean, look at the way they treated Janine for trying to just spend time with her baby.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, so it's no wonder the girl went off the deep end.
Well, Lydia goes, and I can't think of that commander's name. To me, he's the red herring because he's the one that provides all the info. But she goes to him, and she's like, I want to take care of all the handmaids and keep them in the same place, and the commanders and the wives can come for the ritual there. This is what I want. And he looks at her and just kind of scoffs, and he's like, don't you understand that's never going to happen?
Right.
And
Exactly.
it's like she realizes that these women are basically whores.
Exactly.
They're being whored to these men.
Yeah. Yeah.
It finally clicked with her. Like you could see it clicking.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, like I said, they've been sneaking them around to a club and everything else, I mean, and you can't say that others didn't know that was going on.
Well, I think about that scene with Serena holding June, and it just makes my skin crawl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, hell yeah.
How can you do that to another woman?
Yes, exactly. I mean, there are a lot of things, but come on. There are as many women as men in this world that they're living in. Don't tell me you couldn't go in and take this over and take it away. And if she didn't realize just how little she meant when she read and they cut her finger off, then anything going after that, she deserves.
Well, going back to the guy that's like the representative for the.
Are you talking about the dude that was on Get Out?
I don't know what Get Out is.
It's a movie. There was a movie a few years ago called Get Out. He's the one with the short clipped beard that helped Serena get across the border the first time.
June.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, June.
Oh, Commander Lawrence.
That's who I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, the red herring. I like him.
I like him, but he's creepy in every show he's ever been in.
Yeah. He kind of has this whole Dennis Hopper thing going on.
Yeah, he kind of
Really
does. Yeah. But yeah, he there's just, everything I've ever seen him in, you're just like, I'm just not sure about this guy.
Dennis Hopper, Blue Velvet. That's what I'm thinking. But
well, that's another thing too. We start kind of seeing where his motivations are coming from. He wants this Gilead to be New Bethlehem and start opening the borders to let more people in.
Mm-hmm.
And the other commander's like, no, we need to keep the borders closed. Mm-hmm. We want to stay insulated.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's totally not helping because he's down with women's rights.
I'm not sure what he's down with because he's very
kind of sneaky.
He's shifty.
Yep.
Yes, he is. Well, and what was it? I'm trying to remember what season it was when crap. Okay, that's another bad thing about getting old, when those thoughts just go. But yeah, like I said, he's definitely shifty because, like I said, just when you think you know what he's up to, he goes and does something, and you're like, what the hell was that all about?
Well, at least he was smart enough to turn Serena down.
He knows the snake when he sees it.
He's like, oh, no.
Yeah.
That is not going to happen.
Well, you could tell he sees right through her.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And she tried to manipulate him and Nick, and it worked for a little bit, but he switched that over on her when she started playing the wedding march.
Yeah, that would be the last place I'd want to go back to. I mean, as a female.
I was going to say the guy, the American guy that is in Canada that like flew with her.
Mhm.
Right.
Sometimes he looks at her like he's in love with her, and other times he looks at her like she disgusts him. And I haven't really figured out what side of the fence he's on with her.
Mhm.
Because I had thought for a while that he was her baby daddy, but I don't think so.
I think he's intrigued by her, most definitely. But I'm like, yeah, I really, sometimes I see love, sometimes I see hate.
Well, there's a lot there to hate.
Yeah, there's a lot there to hate.
Well, she was brilliant. I mean, and just don't understand. I mean, and it's a very complicated show.
It is. And, if they can resolve this June thing, say, oh, whoopsie, she got away or whatever, I'll be okay.
I think that it's going to be the Canadian border people that get them.
Mm-hmm.
Not the American border people, not the Gilead border people.
Right.
Well, yeah, because it took me about a season and a half to realize that the United States and Gilead both existed.
Yeah.
Because it's like, for a minute, you're like, oh, they took over the whole country. And then it's like, wait a minute, but they're talking about going to America. So, it's like, okay, so something's not quite clicking together there.
I find it interesting that, I mean, this is, again, it's just, I probably shouldn't say it, but I find it interesting that Boston is where they're doing this from, because I wouldn't think that would be where the root nest of this kind of patriarchy would be.
Well,
that's interesting. Yeah.
I would have placed it further south.
Right. We would have been trying to get over that Kentucky state line.
Yeah, I mean, I would have. I mean, I really wouldn't
Get to the Mason-Dixon.
Yes, that's the one. Because I'm going to tell you, if Gilead ever happens, I'll probably be going along the way that June's mother did. They'll put me in a radioactive field and kill me off.
Yeah, I'm a crone. They're gonna definitely put me somewhere with birds of carrion.
Yes. I mean, I'm not going to be their friend. So, and I can live with that, but I'm hoping I'm better prepared by preparing for the zombies. I'm hoping I'm prepared for Gilead too.
I know, right? Who knew the zombie apocalypse would happen?
Right. But I kind of see it coming from the same type of direction. Things just go crazy. We have no control over it, and chaos happens. But that's another thing that got me, because they make it out like this is all about the United States. But then, do you remember when the Mexican delegates came? Mm-hmm. And June reached out to her like, we are not doing this voluntarily. Please help us. And because of the baby factor, she just turned her back on her.
Well, I do appreciate they're kind of exploring that fertility crisis. We're revisiting that subject this season, which I do appreciate, because I think that kind of got lost in the shuffle.
Right.
Okay, Finley's having to jump off, so everybody say bye to Finley. Bye, Finley.
Bye, Finley.
Thanks for hopping on, and we'll see you next month.
Yes.
Bye, girl.
Bye.
But yeah, like I said, I'm glad too, because like I said, yeah, it's gotten away from that, and that was pretty much the center of the whole story in the beginning. That's what the book was about. It's just the fact that nobody was having children. Now, I'm going to step out on a limb and say, you know what? It would not hurt if we got rid of some of the population.
I agree. I'm for that, but I'm going to take a wild leap over here and say, what do y'all think about all these people in Hollywood having these like surrogate mothers?
Yeah.
Well,
have y'all noticed that's like a new trend?
I think it's like vanity. Like,
well, yeah, it's very weird.
I mean, yeah.
Because who is it? What's his name? Alec Baldwin and his wife just had their like 7th kid or something, and the majority of them have been surrogacies.
Well, what's his name? Elon Musk. It's rumored that he is Amber Heard's baby daddy, and because they had a test tube baby, or like a surrogate. And then I saw where one of the Kardashians had. I mean, it's like the news, and I was like, "What? When does this become a thing?" And
yeah.
I mean, I knew that it was possible, but I didn't know like we were actively shopping for this now.
Right. Because like I said, we've got plenty of kids in this world.
Well, it seems like, and this is, keep in mind, I am a woman of a certain age with no children. So when I say this, I mean, I thought that this was something that was reserved for people who could not have children.
Right, could not carry or whatever.
Yeah, but now it's like, hey, I don't want to lose my girlish figure, so let's get a baby mama.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what it reminds me of? And this goes back, and I told you that it's something that I'd like for us to talk about at some point. The Tennessee Children's Home from the mid part of last century, in the 40s, 50s, stuff like that. Joan Crawford got her twins from this place, and it came down to Georgia Tan that ran it was having people kidnap children from poor families that were like blonde, blue-eyed, acceptable in appearance, and selling them to celebrities. Ric Flair was actually adopted from there, the wrestler.
Really?
Oh yeah, it was a huge thing, and I actually first learned about it. I can vaguely remember hearing a little bit about it forever ago, but I picked up a fiction book called Before We Were Yours. And when she started writing it, she had heard that, oh, well, there was this woman who ran this home that ended up, selling children, kidnapping and selling children. They have no idea how many were killed in their custody. I mean, it was a horrible, horrible story. But she started researching it to do a fiction book, and then just knocked open the can of all the things that had happened, all the children that had been kidnapped and everything. So the book itself is fiction, but it's broadly based on what actually happened. It is a heart-rending story, but it is a very good story.
Well, that sounds like a good topic.
Is it this? I heard something about there's another place. I want to say it was in New York. Mm-hmm. And they would lure like single mothers back in the 20s and 30s into this house, mm-hmm. and keep them there, say, we'll pay for everything, we'll take care of you, and they'll have the baby, and the baby, quote unquote, died. But they've just taken it and sold it to someone.
Right. There was some of that going on with in Tennessee also. They were getting, poor single mothers. There were a lot of shanty boats and stuff on the Mississippi River around Memphis in that time. Mm-hmm. And they would wait until, the parents were working or whatever and kidnap children. In this particular story, and they said, during their research, they found that this had happened more than once too. This family of children, and back then so many women had their babies at home, they'd get a midwife or whatever. But what would happen is this mother, she started having complications, and the midwife told her husband, you need to take her to the hospital. She needs more than I can give her. Well, that's when somebody came in, kidnapped their children, but then the twins that she had at the hospital, they replaced them with two babies that had died. So it ended up being that not only were the children, that they left at home with their older sister kidnapped, but they also kidnapped their newborns by telling them that. Yeah, I mean, so like I said, so yes, this is a subject I'd really like to delve deeply into,
me too.
And everything, because like I said, it's very heartrending, but it's just the stories. And when Lisa, I can't remember her last name, but the one that wrote the book, got together with another writer, and they started hosting a yearly reunion, and they would help people find their brothers and sisters that had been taken at this home and everything. Wow. So yeah, it's like I said, the fiction story was good, but the overall story of what these two writers did to try to help, at least them find something,
Well, I think that our next true crime deep dive is going to be on the murder of Hogan's hero actor, Bob Crane. Yep. And I'm super eager for that one, by the way.
Yes.
It is a creepy story.
It is so into all the stuff, right?
Oh, yeah, because when the guys were going back and forth, I'm like, I never heard that one. Wait,
I know.
what?
And I had actually researched it at some point. I don't remember. I think I'd seen something somewhere, and I was like, "What? I didn't know that." And so I just started researching it, and it's incredibly weird. But yeah, we should totally do that and do this one. I mean, I would love to do more of these, but I know it's always a time problem with this.
Yeah.
So maybe if we just did a couple of stories, or maybe do a couple of topics at once. Maybe
Yeah.
that's what we
Well,
should.
we've done that tonight. I mean,
Yeah.
we've covered 3 different things. And I think it's worked out well.
I think so.
So cool. Hey, well, you can get us all together. You need to get us all together.
I know, that's what I'm thinking. I
Yeah.
I love having Gracie with us. She offers so much to the conversation. I hate Jen wasn't here. I'm glad Finley got to get on. I love having the girls talk.
Yeah.
And I love doing the true crime stuff with Mr. Scott Baker because he just always does such great research.
He does. He makes us look really bad.
He does.
Not that I want him to stop, but he really does make us look bad when he gets into the research. That's probably why he writes so much.
He is a machine, right?
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
I can't remember. Have we decided what documentary we're going to talk about next month?
I thought someone had suggested the girl in the photo.
Oh yeah, the girl in the picture.
But we can pick something else too.
No, that's fine with me. That was interesting. It was a very creepy, very intriguing story. Like, some documentaries you kind of like, they're good, but you kind of space out. Not with that one. You're engaged like for the whole thing.
Well, that's what I need. I started watching a documentary yesterday about that Wyoming beauty queen who kidnapped that Mormon and had I don't know what all's involved, but it was like BDSM, and she flew people over to England to kidnap him. There are Corvettes and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Oh wow.
But it wasn't well done. It just couldn't keep me. And I was like, well, I don't know how this topic can't keep me, but
that's the thing about some of these documentaries that you see on Hulu or Prime or whatever. They were, the production value or the storytelling is just not there.
Well, I did look. I did see facts about the Dahmer stuff that Netflix didn't want to tell you. And it was pretty interesting because obviously they've got their new series out about Jeffrey Dahmer. It was very close to the real case, but they took some liberties, obviously, with combining some people and stuff like that, which, you kind of have to do because there's so many people involved in these things. But
just be careful watching that because, it's going to let demons in your house.
What?
You haven't heard that?
No.
Oh my God, there are people that the last one I read today was some girl had a dream and that there are demons that are behind this whole Dahmer series. And if you watch it, the demons are going to come into your house.
People need to stop taking their meth.
That and Hocus Pocus too.
Well, I told you about Hocus Pocus too. I knew about that.
Yes. Well, now Dahmer is evidently in there too because,
Is this the equivalent of playing the record backwards from the 80s?
I really think you're right. That could definitely be it.
I mean, people. I just wish y'all would find something else to do.
Yes.
Go have a snack.
Or a drink.
Take a walk and
have
just
an
calm
edible.
down.
There you go. Edibles will work too. I hear they're awesome if you don't take too many of them.
Calm down and stay out of everybody else's business.
Yes.
I try to stay out of people's business.
All right, guys. So I'm going to wrap it up. I know we got a hard quit at 8:30, so somebody's got to get a little girl to bed. So it has been great. I love getting together with y'all. I think that we took on a very tough topic with the gun stuff, and I think we did a great job with it.
Yeah.
Because you know why? We're all adults.
That's right.
We're all adults.
And we're willing to listen.
Yes.
That's right.
All right. Ladies, y'all have a great night. It's been wonderful.
You too, girls. Have a good week, and I will talk to y'all when I talk to y'all.
All right.
Good night.
Bye.
Night, Mike. Night, Landa. Night, Mona. Night, everybody that's in the chat. Alan, Tony was there for a little bit. We'll talk to y'all soon.
All right, bye.